Hey, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. I'm Dan. I'm here with my man Colin. We just were talking about something super funny. Colin, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. I could use a little, I mean, maybe an hour or two more sleep.
You wish
But
that joke we just had, we probably could have shared on the podcast, but it's not quite podcast safe, right?
I don't think it's safe anywhere.
Yeah. Well, before we get into why you're tired and all the exciting OTA news, first we got to shout out the Twitter handle, Big Blue United, on Twitter. The Big Blue, us, the Pod Boys, BBU Pod Boys at Twitter. Beer and Provisions, our local watering hole. The Pigskin Podcast Network for housing us at the Pigskin Pod Net on Twitter. And DraftKings, the omnipresent gambling forefathers, and this week's special sponsor, Wilson. That's right, Wilson, as these fly sweatshirts Colin and I have on. For the listeners, they're quite good looking and flattering on both of us. But we mentioned in the past, Wilson was kind enough to host the Big Blue United draft party. And we did it at their flagship store location in New York City, Soho, quite literally a block off of Houston Street. And it was an excellent time. The Wilson brand, I'm sure Colin will attest to, is so omnipresent in sports. You almost forget it's there, but they have sort of a new lease on life with a lot of the clothing they're putting out. So straight up comfortable streetwear type stuff. So it's not just like hoodies and mesh pants. It's cool sweatshirts, cool jackets, hats, the whole nine. And it's stuff that's classic and still somehow fresh. And I really appreciate everything they're doing. And the location is incredible. If you're ever in the city, you can pop on by and check out all the new gear. Just really cool that like a brand that's been so respected and so just omnipresent in sports is also trying to evolve and do cool stuff and remain, at the forefront of quality and athletics like that.
And similar to the cyclical nature that is fashion by and large, and especially nowadays when it seems that the 90s is again present
That's
in
right.
terms of a lot of the music, a lot of the clothing. And I think Wilson has tapped into a lot of what they used to do back in the day, and now they're just doing it again, but better, which is cool because, I mean, this sweatshirt literally looks like 1995, and I love it. I like the
It's a good
color.
sweatshirt. If you didn't
Yeah.
get it before me, I would have.
Oh, this was you all day. I
Yeah.
had to snatch that before you got it because it was gone.
But enough gear for all of us, really.
Yeah, David Lugo, again, the man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, David, for putting on a great show. But pop in and say hi to David and the whole crew there. Great spot. Interesting clothes. Stuff you can wear for all sorts of occasions. Just classic stuff. So shout out to Wilson. Thank you so much for everything. And we'll hopefully be doing some more stuff with them in the future, right?
Definitely. Would love that very much.
So Colin and I are left to our own devices since TJ's gone, and we have absolutely no plan for this podcast. So you're going to get what you're going to get. And if you don't like it, just turn the volume off, but listen, just keep it playing in the background. That's good for our numbers here at Big Blue United. Even tell your friends, just don't put the volume on, just have it going, put it on repeat, see what happens, get crazy with it.
You could, if you have two, actually, here's what you do. You start another account or use a different platform and you listen to something else while you're playing our episode.
Just like a thought experiment. Put it on your TV, your laptop, your phone, run them. Just repeat. Volume off. You won't even know it's on. Just helping out some friends. Really. That being said, OTAs are last week and this week, or was week 2, correct?
There's two more. There was one today. There's one tomorrow, and there's also one. What did I see here? The 26th, and then they started up again from the 31st to the 2nd, and then they start mandatory mini camp after that, which is June 7th to the 9th. So there's been some interesting things going on. I mean, it's one of those, as we've lamented again, it's we're part in that kind of time of year that just not a heck of a lot is happening. You want to get excited, especially about these rookies that are coming in, but it's an extension of the underwear Olympics, basically. I mean, they're wearing some uniforms here and some helmets and shoulder pads, but not much hitting's happening. They're learning, they're learning and installing the playbook. I mean, everybody's learning it, obviously, with a new coaching staff and what have you. So it's an interesting time, but there are some tidbits that are good to read because it just reinforces, either your good or not good feeling about certain players we drafted or signed off undrafted free agency. So, I mean, what I just came away with, and I liked it because that was the first person I talked about in undrafted free agent wise, was Andre Miller. He was able to get a touchdown by playing the tight end position, something he's never done before.
He's very tall.
Yeah, 6'2", 6'3", and he's
That's it? I thought he's taller than that.
No, it's generally.
I was thinking of someone. Andre Holmes that was another Bills wide receiver.
Oh yeah. No, he's big. I mean, he's like 222 or something like that, and they're probably going to have him gain some weight here. But yeah, he caught a touchdown from, again, Davis Webb. He likes throwing touchdowns, so he's back on our squad and he's throwing them to people. It's good to have a coach in training as our third string quarterback. So that's.
Do we play the Panthers this year?
I don't think so.
No. I was hoping for like a McAdoo revenge game for Davis Webb.
Yeah.
But, that's cool. I mean, to me, like these OTAs, I'm not really going to get too hyped on any like the highlights. The things I'm more interested in are like the interviews with the coaches, I guess. Those have been cool to see come out. The Kafka interview, the Dable interview, hearing that Kadarius Toney's involved, been in the building the whole time, working hard on and off the field. I mean, they're not saying a lot, but what more could you want to hear?
Well, I mean, I think something that was not great to hear, I'm sure you may or may not know, is that he had some orthoscopic knee surgery somewhat recently. And that's been, it seems that the Giants have entered the mode of, ironically enough, the Bill Belichick style of throwing injury news out there and not doing it at all because nobody knew that he had any issues. He was wearing the red shirts at the first couple of days of the voluntary stuff. That's kind of stuff you're over it in a couple of weeks, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, they always like, they got orthopedic, not orthopedic now. I lost it.
I know.
Orthoscopic. They had to clean out some stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, just cleaning out what, like shards of bone? Like, no big deal. It's like getting your teeth clean. He's on board. Of course, he was going to be on board. I think the media, especially the New York media, they're trying to Odell Beckham Jr. him. Anything that's shiny and fun, let's beat him down and make him hate playing here.
And I don't really. I know they got a job to do, and it's all about clicks in that profession, especially nowadays. Doesn't matter what kind of field of journalism you're into, it's all about the clicks. And I think it's getting to the point, especially in the biggest media market in the country, where you can't pay it any mind at all anymore. And I know it's hard because it's you run to the beat writers to get your daily fix, and that's what people have been doing for ages. But you got to know the people to avoid and the people that are worth reading.
I agree. It's consider your source, man. Like some of these beat writers now are just in a hole so badly that they can't get out of it. We don't have to mention any names, but people are taking certain writers that have been on the beat forever with a grain of salt because of their track record and sort of stirring up stuff where stuff doesn't need to be stirred up. And then guys getting scoops that you shouldn't be getting scoops, like the Talking Giants guys getting scoops all of a sudden. That's awesome. So, I mean, by being a media person, not like us, like a real media, like real reporter, you have to constantly put out content and have interesting things to say, and have information if you're going to put out information that's relevant and true. Um, and the amount of stuff you put out, you got to be on top of it, and you can't mess up. There's a lot of opportunities to mess up, and so you have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. And hopefully, players say they don't read it or care. Some might, some have thinner skins than others, but um, cut some rookies and some second year guys some slack. They're quite literally like not drinking age yet. Of course, they're going to be a little rough around the edges, or not media savvy. They're not all Kayvon Thibodeau. So he'll satiate the desire of the media here in New York. I feel like we've had like purposely zero personality coming out of the Giants because we haven't hired coaches with any personality or any opinions, and we've purposely avoided any players with any thoughts or anything other than sort of a placid demeanor that they're just going to fall in line. So now we have some real players with some real things to say, and maybe that'll take some of the pressure off of scrounging up nothing.
And I mean, not for anything else. I mean, the Wan'Dale Robinson pick almost, some people would look at it as a negative to Tony in particular, but in this scope of conversation right here, I think it actually gives him coverage, for lack of better words, of not having to feel like he needs to be the guy, especially because, you still have Galladay, who is still around. People forget that he's still there, but he's going to come back, and he's going to be fine because he's going to have some people telling him and teaching him correct things to do. So that'll be interesting. I keep forgetting that he exists as our number one wide receiver.
It's easy to forget after last season.
Yeah.
But I think I was thinking about that too, right? Like they automatically compare Wan'Dale Robinson to Tony and how they profile in the system. But the bottom line is those are two guys that are going to have to be accounted for in every time they're on the field, because you can do anything with either of those guys, whether that's put them in motion and for a jet sweep, or hand them off directly, or Tony can throw the ball. Like the potential outcomes of any single play that one of them is involved in is multitude, but both of them, it's exponential. So whether or not they even get the ball is going to free each other up, as well as those other guys like Kenny Galladay or whatever tight end we have in there, or Saquon. And I've said this a million times, but the derided Wendell pick wasn't my choice from my analysis for wide receiver, that spot. But given who our head coach is and who our offensive coordinator is, and that they chose him above other people, make me think he has a very specific purpose, and they have a very specific reason they wanted him there. And so with creative offensive minds putting that to use, in the very least, it's going to be super fun and interesting, and you're going to want to see what he's doing on every play. And that's entertainment in the very least. But I think they're going to use him in a cool way, and we're going to have a fun offense rather than just, doing outs to Sterling Shepard for 5 yards.
Exactly. I watched a little bit of, I forget the name of the segment, Bob Papa and Sean O'Hara. It's like breaking down the film.
Yeah.
And Sean was basically showing various ways, and he called him instant offense. That was his name for him, which I think was very interesting, because he went right to what we've been talking about and how Kafka and Dable have kind of utilized pre-snap motion in the past. He's going to be a jet sweep guy right from the get-go. I know that is it's a very overused tool in the offense, but if it's used at the right time, it can just hit. So stuff like that, or even faking that and then going somewhere else,
just the threat of it,
decoy, because you can run him into the ground and then all of a sudden go to someone else and no one's going to know it's going somewhere else. So
I mean, he's one of those guys, just like Tony, where if they can catch a pass and not be tackled immediately, like anything can happen. If they have if there's no one within 3 yards of them when they catch the ball, like we're off to the races. Like something fun is going to happen. And not all players can do that. It's just that threat.
And already in OTAs, they've been showing. I mean, it hasn't been, anything groundbreaking, but he's been catching tons of passes.
Yeah.
They've been going early and often to him. It's
Yeah.
clear that Dable is going to make him. I wouldn't consider him a focal point, but he's going to be a main point of this
Yeah.
offense as long as he picks up the playbook and he stays healthy.
A key ingredient for sure.
Yeah, which that's another thing. I don't know who they ended up hiring for strength and conditioning. I don't recall that. But I think that's going to be a very interesting aspect of this season too, let alone the turf issues that we've, lamented.
We have Craig Fitzgerald from the University of Tennessee. That was March 2020. There's someone new since him.
I would assume so.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, to be seen. But I think we're going to have to see if we can finally put to rest the tried and true lead pipe drill exercise that we've been talking about.
I think just buy some sod, man. Let's get some perennial ryegrass out there and just get them off that turf. What are we doing?
We got Wandell. Let's get some Kentucky bluegrass for a Kentucky big bluegrass.
Oh, a signature blend.
Yes. So it's got some Jersey, it's got some Kentucky, it's got some New York.
Yeah.
And then you got him running all over it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I'm for it. I mean, you got to consider the practice field. There's not a lot of shade, so it's going to be in a lot of direct sunlight in the summer. So Kentucky bluegrass, I don't know. You might need to go with something more exotic, like some of that Bermuda grass or some of the stuff you find in Florida. I mean, we're getting into yard talk right now, and I can't help but segue just quickly into the reason Colin is tired right now. It's from a long day yesterday. Colin, why are your bones so weary?
Well, it started with some shed building in the old yard,
and that's not a euphemism.
No, I literally have a shed in my backyard that is going to house all of my
weightlifting gear.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I'm just going to be throwing steel around back there. No, it's my lawnmower and all the weed whacker and the leaf blower and all that stuff's going to go back there because the way my basement is set up, it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it's a small. It's not good. So thankfully, Steph and I had the aid of my father-in-law to come help with a lot of it, but it was definitely a 3-person kind of deal because there was usually one person doing one thing, another person holding something else, and then one other person giving all the pieces that are needed to do everything. Everyone's been there. It's a kind of hellacious, nightmarish kind of, why is this so difficult kind of situation?
You did it the right way though. You built essentially a platform deck, right?
Yep.
And then
level.
The shed on top of it. You're not going to have seepage. It's going to be dry.
Yep.
It's stable.
It's on cinder blocks, and then the platform is above it. And I wasn't part of leveling it. That was Steph and her dad, which was cool.
That was the real men's work that you left for your wife and father-in-law.
Well, she took the day off, and I had to work, and he works 3 days a week or whatever it is. So it just made sense. And then yesterday was the last haul, and we weren't quite done. The doors still needed to be put on, and I hopped on the train, came down to Queens and Brooklyn, hung out with you and TJ and some other fine fellows. And by fellow,
and in case any haters are wondering, we were drinking Heady Dank IPAs.
That Evil Twin all day. Yeah. The reason we were down there is to see a Turnstile show, a band that if you have not heard, run out and hear now.
Or just watch Jimmy Fallon tonight.
Tonight, yes, at 11:35 or whatever, they'll be playing, and which is insane. I liked it. I said it last night. I likened them and their meteoric rise in rock and roll, which is unfortunately to some people a dying genre nowadays. Yeah. And I don't think it's dying, but in terms of how it used to be back in the day, yeah, I guess so. But it rivals the Nirvana kind of experience.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's that level, but I will say a band breaking out of hardcore to the level that they have at this point is probably unprecedented.
But it's similar because they were a hardcore punk band back in the late 80s, early 90s, and then they broke into the mainstream, and they're doing the same thing in a different era, no?
I mean, the landscape is so much different.
Which makes it even harder.
Right? Yeah. They're not gonna be cultural zeitgeist like Nirvana. Like
Yeah, I guess you're right.
everyone's not gonna know Turnstile, but from coming from Nirvana started the whole Seattle thing. Like I think Turnstile might have more and more hardcore bands breaking to larger audiences, which is huge, which is a genre that traditionally, turns its back on popular acceptance and is very true and insular to the old customs and traditions of like the local scenes.
You know what the most amazing part about it is too, and I haven't read too deep, but they're almost not even being hated by those purists.
They're undeniable. That's the thing. I think for the most part, purists can't deny the musicality and what they're doing and the creativeness. And I think the big thing is the positivity. There's a lot of angry hardcore. There's a lot of political hardcore. I think if you boil down Turnstile, it's just like seeking self, seeking like truth, and being positive in love, which is like amazing for such sort of violent kind of music.
But it's a dance party. I mean, literally, they're pump up music. All bands. It doesn't matter what act you go to see. There's always music playing prior to them coming on stage,
Yeah.
and you'd never think a band that was as heavy as they are would have "I Just Want to Dance with Somebody" by Whitney Houston, which frankly, I was listening to it and it was loud, and I'm looking around and everybody's happy. I'm like, this rules.
Yeah. Great show. I was fighting for my life. Thought I might have had either heat stroke or a heart attack within the first 5 minutes. It was very hot last night. It was like 90 degrees, and I'm fat and 35, and I was in the pit and just started melting immediately. But me and Colin got in there. We regulate a little bit.
Yeah, but even TJ, after a while of being very hesitant, he has not been in a pit in probably 15 years. Every bit of it.
Yeah.
So he was very hesitant. Him and Scott stayed a little to the back, but then there was a point in the night where TJ came up to me and was just like, "If we're going up, we're going up now." I'm like, "All right, let's go." And we just went up. We went into the main pit area, which was only for like a song or two.
Yeah.
Before retreating back.
We were in the geriatric pit for the most of the time.
Yeah, there was like a second level pit that was still just as good, but not as big.
Yeah. People were picking up change. People were throwing some bows. Nothing too severe. It was. I don't think there's a lot of people that really were about it, prior to a couple years ago. But
that's why that whole pump up leading into their set was so important, because I think it was intentional on their part, because if you instill the crowd with such positivity and good vibes, for a lack of better words, they're not going to want to fight each other. They're going to want to party.
It's fundamentally different than a hardcore show. Like if you watch a Turnstile show from 5 years ago, there's people running up on stage. Like it's a much more intimate environment. This was a rock and roll show. And I will say, if you miss rock stars, this band, each member has their own vibe. The lead singer is quiet and humble, but on stage he's just like a rock god presence. Just excellent stuff. And we're boring people now because no one really cares about Turnstile music.
If we can open their eyes to a world of music that they may not know, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And if you guys are trying to crush some Coors Light before a Giants game, put on this album and it'll get you in a festive, rowdy mood.
And also, just to end it on this, the Knockdown Center in Queens, basically Ridgewood, what a wonderful venue that is.
Flushing, I thought.
Or is it Flushing? Maspeth, Flushing, I don't even know.
Whatever. Out there.
And it's a very interesting space. I thought it was more of an indoor-outdoor kind of thing, the way they show it on the site, but it was enclosed for the most part. But very different, very, very brick, exposed warehouse looking. Yeah. It was cool. The whole experience was great.
Super cool. Highly recommend the band. If you guys have any music opinions or want to hear Colin and I and TJ talk about music in the future, we're happy to do it. We need to fill time these next couple months. So get ready for some variations on the theme. I would expect a discussion on theoretical favorite beers of Giants, current and historic, in upcoming pods.
Weren't we talking about something
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's why
Yeah,
I
that
said
was
it.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely I want to look into some like very abstract Giants related conversation in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Like favorite sitcoms of players,
Yeah.
just based on assumptions, stuff like that. All right, getting back to the down and dirty of it. What other stuff do we have coming out of OTAs? I think I remember reading this. I don't remember who said it, Colin. I'm sure you know, but wasn't there some discussion about talking to the offensive linemen and the stuff they were taught in the past versus what they're learning now, and how they're undoing it and learning how wrong everything they did in the past couple of years was? Do you remember that quote?
Yeah, Bobby Johnson, the offensive line coach, basically said that there are players, current players, that are
Oh,
yearning,
I got the tweet.
they're starving to undo whatever was set in place from basically in so many words, the last regime,
Yeah.
which just spells utter disaster in retrospect, which is just like, I mean, I don't feel good about it, but it like, okay, maybe it was that bad.
Let me see. It's a New York Post Paul Schwartz article that said that the position group's been a mess for decades. Bobby Johnson came to fix it, and essentially there's a version of PTSD and scar tissue from all the bad coaching that's been done on the offensive line. So I guess the first part of fixing a problem is identifying the root of it. So maybe this is going to go a long way, and we're going to get a whole lot more out of players. Shane Lemieux, didn't we hear Shane Lemieux is not wearing any sort of red jersey? He's in the mix full-fledged. That's great news.
He's, as of right now, the starting left guard.
Hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Your boy John Feliciano, aka
Dirtbag.
Nice. Love it.
Which, you know what reminded me when I read that for the first time?
He looks like a dirtbag. Yeah.
Well, I got the picture in my head of Will Beatty and that player profile picture with his choker necklace, and just looking sweaty and
greasy and wet.
Saying he looked like a dirtbag in that picture.
Dirtbag is like too nice for how Will Beatty made me feel. He just made me feel gross. It just made me feel dirty. But I love that. Like that it's a funny nickname, sure, but like it tells me more about like the vibe, jovial. People feel friendly enough to call someone a dirtbag. And I'm sure he rolls with it and lives it up. And everything you see, man, it seems to be on the surface, it seems to be a different vibe. People are having fun. There's smiles. They believe in what's going on. I think like you don't have to be some standoffish like disciplinarian to instill in your players that you know what you're doing and to trust them. You can have fun, joke around. Still, I've watched that video of Dable at practice from like a month ago, like 100 times. They're at Ranger games.
Oh, he's a lucky charm for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like we used to see that stuff all the time. And it's just people forget how cool of a sports city New York is. It's so unique and so amazing. And
the cross social media stuff is incredible.
Why not, man? The biggest city in the world, all these teams are right on top of each other. They can interact. It's cool. I just on the positivity tip from Turnstile, the Giants got me feeling real positive.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me be my Giants fan self.
Oh, that's adorable. But speaking of Feliciano, we do have to touch on a little bit of the negative there. Although I don't even know if it's negative. It's just a little curious, and I wonder what it means. He was on this podcast recently. It was Ariel Helwani's podcast
Oh yeah.
about the issues that he had in his last season as a Bill last year, where he started, I believe it was the first 6 or 7 games, got hurt, and then was more or less,
Rotational.
assured that he'd be in the mix to get his job back once he was healthy again. And not only did he not even get a shot at it once he was healthy, but a guy, and I'm forgetting his name right now, who had only had 1 start prior to 2021, was starting over him. And he was on the wavelength of thinking that the coaching staff just fell out of favor with him in general. And he believes that it serves the Bills right for them losing against the Chiefs in that game, in his mind, because of the personnel decisions they ended up going with. What I kind of take away from that, especially considering he's a Giant now and his former offensive coordinator is the head coach now, is that this was a Sean McDermott thing. It has to be, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
why?
I mean, also that's like an inflated sense of self. They were a super dominant team that played really well. Like, of course, the guy that gets left behind is going to say, they're that's karma for not starting him. But I think it says a lot that he started the first 6 games, like you said, on a team that was run so well and so productive. And if he was in the mix or should have been in the mix for starting for them all year long, then that bodes well for us. But I mean, any player is going to say, like, not trusting them is like a crucial failure. But
I thought it was an interesting move to go ahead and let that out at a time like this. Maybe he was just super candid, and maybe it was a little out of context. Who knows? I didn't listen to it.
Doesn't
but
bother
it
me,
did
really.
make it into the media. So
Yeah.
like everything else in New York. But
Yeah.
first things first. He's
I'll eat
he's
your
playing out of
brains.
what?
First things first, I'll eat your brains. Then I'll start rocking gold teeth with fangs.
Nice.
Kanye
he's
podcast.
He's playing center. So it's like,
Yeah.
concentrate on that. You don't do that very often. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah. We gotta send them the Belly Boys care package. Let them know about Belly Boys, etiquette, differentiate Belly Boys from hog mollies because they're different things.
Yeah.
Let Nick Gates show him the ropes. Since he's can't participate in on-field activities, he can show him how to be the best belly boy they can be. I think that's the prerogative.
I'm sure in his rehab, he's been turning up the belly boyness.
I hope so. Some of those guys get shredded ripped when they're not like.
Oh yeah, like all the former, like the 2007 linemen that are like 150 pounds less than they were then.
Yeah. Maybe not to the same extent, but he might be shedding some weight. He's not. What else? I heard that people are really onto Dane Belton. Did you hear this? That people are really optimistic about his potential for this season.
I've seen it, and I don't, like, in complete transparency and honesty here, I don't know enough about him to be blindly optimistic about him.
Same.
But it's cool to hear that. I mean, I think Iowa sort of has a good track record with safeties, so that's like a good start.
True. Taylor Rapp, or
oh yeah,
it's a few others. I don't know.
Well, we had one.
He got injured right away, right?
Well,
retired
he's
early.
no longer with us, if I remember correctly. He was on the 2000.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
11 Super Bowl team, and blanking on his name right now, unfortunately. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. Hey, I mean, I think with the fact that our linebacker room in general is thin, I think it's more important to have depth in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was taking a little bit of a deep dive on Wink Martindale's defense, it seems that we may need a lot more linebackers. Mostly being that he is like one stat that I thought was very interesting. He runs one of the highest percentages of like 1 to 2 down linemen with that like chaotic linebacker roving, moving amoeba defense that we talked about in years past when we ran one for a while there with Spagnuolo.
I thought you were talking about our Thanksgiving team.
Oh, well, yeah.
We always run an amoeba defense on Thanksgiving.
Well, it was scrambled eggs on offense and amoeba defense. But yeah, I mean, and that would spell like very typical Raven style of just like try to confuse and the misdirection and moving around prior to the snap where people don't know who they're blocking, like that kind of stuff, which I think kind of plays into the Kayvon's capabilities too, because not only can he put his hand in the dirt, obviously, but he can stand up and he can drop into coverage sometimes, which is totally rad in terms of
what was his 40 time, like 4.5?
Yeah
he can cover some people.
And on the same wavelength there, I was doing some research prior to jumping onto this, and I got excited by Azeez
Ojulari.
Yeah, his capabilities now of what he was able to do last year with no bookend guy on the other side.
Yeah.
Now having one and not being able to be double teamed all the time.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna rip.
It's a big unlock, man. Very excited. Yeah, seeing Azeez apparently put on 10 pounds of muscle. We're gonna say, and underrated rookie year. I think. I mean, Giants fans might overrate it, but I think NFL wide underrated. And pairing him against a premier pass rusher on the other side can only be good. And especially we have the strong interior. They're not gonna, they're still gonna demand. You can't. I don't think you can really, block Dexter Lawrence with one person, unless, especially if you're trying to run the ball. But very hopeful for the defense to take a big step this year, despite a lot of the turnover in the secondary. And excited for seeing creative minds on the offense. I can't. We're going to keep saying it, especially this part of the year, but it's just fun stuff. Look forward to. And I don't know that there's necessarily anything else we need to highlight from OTAs.
Well, I was just going to tag on to what you just said now about being excited about the offense. I mean, that interview with Kafka about being asked about how, and this is such an obvious thing, and it's again with journalists and what they end up asking. Sometimes the questions are so asinine, but they had to ask this one anyway because they want to see what he says from this kind of thing. And it's basically, you came from the Chiefs, high-powered, innovative, Andy Reid, coaching tree, whole thing. And obviously Dable from the Bills doing the crazy things that they've been doing the last couple of years. How much of that is going to define what you guys are trying to implement with the Giants? And his answer, you could easily be like, all right, he's just saying this because it's a stupid question. He doesn't really feel like answering it. But I actually think there's more to it, because what he said was like, oh, yes, of course, there's going to be obvious ideas that we are going to draw from our experiences in our coaching lives prior to coming to New York. But this is going to be a Giants offense.
Yeah.
And what I took from that is that, yes, there'll be wrinkles that you will recognize, but there will be things that you won't recognize, almost like they're going to try to be even more different than they were.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means or what that looks like, but
to me, that's like a reflective of like the idea that they're going to make the best offense for their personnel.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, they can't be like, yes, we're going to be a hybrid of Kansas City and Buffalo, because that like insinuates that they have no ideas of their own as well.
Well, and you know what a perfect example of that is the idea of putting Saquon in split out.
6 feet tall. It's taller than Wendell Robinson and Kadarius Toney.
And there's not probably. I mean, you want to give him some sort of credit, and it's unfortunate that it's never been utilized in the past, but it's possible that he could be the best running back at being split out if it's done correctly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of good receiving running backs. We've never seen Saquon really do it. They just check down passes for 3 yards.
But that's what I mean. He's got the physical tools to like be that weird.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Saquon's as good of a receiver as they say, and you have him on the field with Kadarius Toney and Wendell Robinson, like, who's playing what position? If they're going to add motion, that's going to create a lot of chaos on the defense.
Well, think of this scenario. All right, you come out. It's, I don't know, power eye.
Wing T, baby.
Well.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
With Saquon as the fullback and Tony and Wendell Robinson as the halfbacks.
You said Jeremiah Hall out there?
Nah, we don't need him.
Oh, stop it. He's the perfect wing T guy. He totally is. No, not wing T. Just bear with me here. Power eye coming out. You got
with a fullback.
It could be one of the tight
Power
ends.
Eye is a fullback.
It could be Jeremiah Hall. It could be anybody.
Power Eye.
They come out and they show that. You got Wandell. I don't know who else. Someone else in the slot, and then Galladay. Motion happens. You got Saquon splitting out. You got Wandell getting in motion, and all of a sudden being the running back.
Yeah.
So you got Saquon going out there. He may not even be getting the ball, and then all of a sudden you got this guy being the running back. They just switch places. Like, I love that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we've not really had that true ability to craft plays to be able to do that sort of stuff.
Ever. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the only other thing I'd mentioned from the interview with Kafka was they brought up the play calling thing. Did you see that part?
Yeah.
Where they're like, so who's calling plays? We know you're calling plays in OTAs. Do you have a desire to call plays? And I appreciate his candor. He was just like, yeah, all offensive coordinators would like to call plays. We're going to see how it goes. Dabes is an offensive coordinator. He's used to calling plays. I appreciate the art of calling offensive plays and want the chance to do it. And if it happens, it happens. If not. And I was like, that's great. And he's watched Andy Reid call plays, and he's going to be in this system developing an offense around what he likes. Like, maybe he'll call plays one day. Maybe he'll start off right off the bat, but not a concern. But I appreciate the way he addressed the question honestly, and just everything is checking boxes, man. Nothing's of a concern, and I feel like there's just opportunity ahead.
Yeah. I it's an exciting time, and we can allow ourselves to be a little bit excited with some hesitancy in there, and that's all we can ask for at this point.
I mean, relevant to the past, I don't know how many every years you want to say, 5 years, 6 years, most exciting time to be a Giant fan. 100%. Easily. Yeah. Since the last Super Bowl. But I think that's it, man. I think that's it. You got anything else?
No, I think we should cut it. We talked about a lot of good stuff.
All right. So thank you, TJ, for letting Colin and I be ourselves this week and not adhere to your strict regime of bullet points and relevant information. And we could meander and talk a lot about yard work. Thank you to the listeners. Please like, subscribe, follow at Big Blue United, at Big Blue Pod Boys, at what else? TPPN, the Pigskin Pod Net. Thank you to Wilson. Thank you to DraftKings. 143 forever and ever. Peace.
Yay.